There's a difference between getting to the top and staying on top. And what I've learned is that the more things that you can make habit or second nature that live in your subconscious lends you to be better off at focusing in the moment and winning.
The closest tournament we've ever had is 14 hours from my house. Some years we're on the road January to September. Time is the biggest thing. I mean, I'm thankful that my family gets to travel with me, but I don't get to see like my parents a ton, my grandparents, my friends from back home. You miss a lot of that type of stuff, but it's always been that way.
My goal's always the same. Win. Last year was trying, but I learned a lot. It was a good year to recalibrate and be tested. It's nice to be able to be home, like have your space, even though the camper brings a lot of that with us. It's just not the same as being at home, right? Like this morning I wake up and it's snow falling, you got a warm cup of coffee, the fire's rolling. Like it just has that cozy home feel to it, and can't really recreate that anywhere else. That disconnect from the everyday life of it is the recharge, where you get new viewpoints, you recharge those batteries so that when you start into the next season, you're excited about it, you're refreshed, recharged, it almost feels new. Whether you had a great season or a bad season, you start back at square one, and kind of everything that I do from the time that the last tournament ends, leading up to that first tournament, those months are spent in preparation for that first tournament. I would say it's probably pretty consistent 8 months on the road per year that we're gone. So more time in the camper than we are here. If I didn't have my family with me, it would be hard. I drove back home, picked the girls up from the airport, and when we're pulling into the campground, Cora, my oldest daughter, said, "We're home." And to me, that's music to my ears, because I want them to be just as comfortable in that lifestyle, and that the reason we travel in a camper is for that. It's 100% a tool to win. You sleep in the same bed every night. You have your routine. Like, I'm not a superstitious person, but I believe in routine because it aids in pushing more of that to your subconscious, right? I can have the cast iron that I like to cook in. I can cook eggs. I can have elk burgers at night. Like, all of that stuff helps win. And I've won more with the camper than without. I mean, the first year that we started traveling with an RV, I won my first AOI. I try to put a lot of emphasis on being in the moment. There's always the thought of, winning the next event, but during a current event, I try to block everything else out. the tournaments I've won, you feel that, right? You hear talk about like flow states and other things in other sports, or getting in that zone. That's where you have to live to win at the top level or at the elite level. And you have to always be thinking ahead, but also cautiously living in the moment to win that event before you look on to the next one. When that event's over, you push that one aside, then you focus on the next one. If you win one week, it doesn't mean that what you used or applied there is going to allow you to win the next week. So you have to have short-term memory both directions. You can't be looking ahead too far, and you can't be looking back too far either. Winning solves a lot of problems, and it's that simple. That's just the reality of it, and it's that feeling of winning. It's not the hardware, or the money, or anything that comes with it. Those are just bonuses, but that feeling of besting the best guys on the water, figuring it out better than anyone else, making those decisions, all the things that happen in that, there's so many cool moments and things that have to go right to win.
I got her! Come here, in the mouth. I got her! I got her! Yeah!
Like, I respect all the guys, but I want to kick their teeth in at the same time. And I expect the same of the people that I compete against. Like, when we're on the water, I want them to respect me, but I also want them to beat me. Right? And that's how you continually elevate each other out there on the water.
I think, depending on Brandon's finish, Brandon handles every tournament like a true professional, and that's one thing I've always, as a fly on the wall, as a camera guy, I've always witnessed how he handles himself on and off the water.
There's very few people that can do what Kyle does. And then there's also an even shorter list of people that Tiff will allow to live with us in the camper. Now considered one of my best friends. I mean, we have laughed until we've cried, and we have cried until we have laughed.
Good job today.
Together. He's been there for some bad situations, and he's been there for Angler of the Years and some of the happiest moments. He drove 28 hours straight with me to make it back to my first kid being born. He's been there for every major event in the last 7 years of my life.
Being able to tell the story of Brandon's career is amazing, and it's fun, but it's not only that, it's a lot of what bass fishing is and what a lot of tournament bass fishing is. And Brandon's evolution as a man has been really cool to document, because I've seen him go from getting married to having 2 girls to winning multiple events, watching him win AOI, watching him go through struggles and hardships. I think that's really cool to be able to document those and be there through those, and all of us as a BMP team go together through those experiences has been really unique. And for me, I'm inspired by telling a story and telling that story in the truest possible way that I know how. And I feel fortunate to be able to be a part of the team.
When you're on top and you're catching them really well, it's awesome, everything's great. But what you do in those moments when everything goes wrong and you're tested and you come outside of that, that's where the most growth is.
There's so much of a grind, and more often than not, you're gonna lose more than you're gonna win in this sport. So being able to flip that switch, and take the good out of every situation, it is a trait that you have to have for longevity in this sport.
I know when a guy's handed that trophy and he gets teared up and choked up and can't talk on the mic. I know that feeling. And so when you see it in person, I think it just drives it home harder. And so whether I had a good event or a bad event, sticking around, it shows that I support those guys, but it also personally helps me kind of I guess, move on to the next one.
Finished watching day 4 weigh-ins, and we are heading to Waddington, New York. It's about a 2-hour drive, but it's a completely different fishery, different forage, still smallmouth bass, but completely different. And it's gonna be massive long runs. You're talking 100+ mile runs one way. I'm looking at like 135 to 150 one way. So it's gonna be a bit of a mission and a mental grind next week. Sleeping in the back of the truck for practice, because where we're launching versus where I wanna fish is so far, I would be wasting 3 to 3.5 hours a day driving back and forth. So I just opted to sleep in my back of my truck.
Usable when you can hold something against someone.
Well, if something's usable, you don't throw it away.
Well,
So if you're not gonna use it, it'd be considered trash.
waste. Okay.
Wasted breaths.
Your outro is the looks of that house.
Seasoned.
Very seasoned.
Fishing's supposed to be fun. And I think as long as it continues to be fun, I'll continue to enjoy it, right? And having my family with me is a big part of that. Because, yeah, when I was 8 years old, I said I wanted to fish the Bassmaster Elite Series for a living. Like, I wanted to fish at the top level. But as I've grown up, how I go about doing that has changed. There's times that I just step back and look and think, well, like, this really is my life. You know, 33% of my life has been spent fishing at the top level. And when you have that perspective, you can't help but be thankful for it. I mean, it's one of the coolest jobs in the world. And even when it gets tough, having the perspective that there's that 8-year-old kid that I was today that wants to be exactly where I'm at. You're not gonna leave the sport a better place just by winning more tournaments, even though winning is important. The winning gives you the credibility and the recognition to make a positive impact on the sport, so it is necessary. But I don't want that to be what defines my career.
Two-time Progressive Bassmaster Angler of the Year from Rapstorm, Idaho, the prodigy Brandon Palaniuk.